You guys are leaving so many questions on the website that I'm having to do this on a fairly regular basis now, just to sort of keep up with the number of comments and questions you guys are leaving. So good stuff. Lots of it is really, really good. But this is Mailbag. This is the questions that you guys leave on the channel and I attempt to answer, or somebody else attempts to answer on my behalf. So we're going to start this time round on a comment from DX7 2, and they write, "Greetings from New York." Well, greetings from deepest, darkest Surrey in England. Very helpful video for for this sometimes cryptic synth. You might know this already, but there are two banks of sounds on the factory ROM cartridge. When I got mine in the 80s, I had to set the cartridge to bank B or bank 2, and was very happy to discover another 64 patches waiting for me. Now, this is very true. There are actually two banks of sounds on the restore cartridge, and typically you only restore the one, but there is a second bank, and if you say you want to install bank B rather than bank bank 2, keep going to bank B because if on the keyboard it's A and B, but if you go and say you want to install bank 2, then you get a different set of sounds. Completely correct, and a very good point, and something very well worthwhile posting to the rest of the tubers out there. I think this is sort of a pun on will.i.am. The next one comes from RKIC, which I think is Rick. Hi, thanks for your videos. I'm quite interested in the MX-1, but don't have any ARIA products to, as yet, use the USB inputs. I thought I'd read somewhere about an update that allowed anything with a audio USB. Could you shine a light on the subject for me, please? Well, Roland, and I've said this before on the channel, Roland have implemented the USB on the ARIA products. It's a custom Roland implementation, okay? It's not the same implementation that you would get with class compliant USB devices or USB devices that you generally plug into your computer. It's a specific implementation, and it's really designed to run with Roland equipment, non-ARIA Roland equipment, I might add. So way back, they released firmware version 1.03. At that point in time, they sort of put support into the platform for the JDX8, the JDXi, the Juno GI, the Jupiter 50, the Jupiter 80, which I was quite happy about because I just bought my Jupiter 80 just before this. The FA06, the FA08 were included in that release, and then in subsequent releases in the 1.04 they added the Juno DS and the XPS30 plus, and this was quite a big thing at the time, and I thought I was going to use this quite a lot until I found out how limited it was. Support for Ableton. Now this is the only thing that the MX-1 does support, is Ableton. They put hardware support in for Ableton. None of the other ones have been put in, but they do support Ableton. And then in 2.16, the last update, which I believe is the 1.05 update, put in support for System 8. And then we've had nothing since 2.16. Okay, so there's been no updates to the system since 2.16. But what Roland won't commit to is supporting any other USB devices that are non-Roland. So there you go. That's kind of where we are with the MX-1. There's a bigger question on the channel with people commenting about the MX-1, and it needs a refresh and an update. And one of the tubers on the channel, Gary Robertson, said he was trying to get a second one, and they were like gold dust in the market space at the moment. So possibly there's an MX-1 refresh or replacement on its way. Just don't know. Hopefully that's answered that one. Next one comes from John Aguiar. Hi mate, recently purchased TR-8, come with firmware 1.1, downloaded drivers for 1.5, for Windows 7 and system program version 1.61. There's no TR-8 as a driver in my PC, so I can't perform the drag and drop. And eject, I can see in Ableton as an audio interface. If I buy the 7X7 expansion, I will be able to install the 1.2 firmware that comes with the expansion right. After that, the TR-8 will appear on my PC drive. Please let me know if I've missed something or misunderstood. Yeah, you kind of have, actually. So, if Ableton can see it, that means that you've got the driver on your PC correctly installed. Otherwise, Ableton wouldn't be able to see it. So, I think we can sort of say that the driver on the PC is good. Now, what you have to do, and I don't know whether you're doing this or not, so I'm just, if I am, I'm sort of teaching you to suck eggs, but hopefully this sort of is useful. But there is a sequence to implementing upgrades on boutique and Roland products, and for the TR-8, the procedure is as follows: unplug your TR-8 from any USB port on a computer or any USB hub connected to a computer. Power it up, and as you power it up, hold down the INST button, inst button, okay, and that should put the TR-8 into an upgrade mode. If that's right, if it's gone into upgrade, what you'll see is the BD to RD pads or RC pads flash at you. Okay, if you see them just doing that sort of steady blinking like that, then you're in upgrade mode. And at that point, you can now connect the TR-8 to your computer. Now, you have to connect it directly to the computer. So USB out the back of the TR-8 into the computer. Right? And if all is well at this point, it should show up on your computer as an external hard drive. Okay, that's kind of what the functionality holding down this button doing is actually putting it into this sort of hard drive mode. Then you can drag and drop the bin file that you've got in terms of the firmware upgrade into that root directory. Once you know the bin file is being effectively copied across, now don't do a copy and paste, do a drag and drop. They are really, really specific about the drag and drop, and I suspect it's something to do with the way they've implemented the logic on the TR-8. In fact, I actually think the TR-8 is some sort of Linux device, but that's a different kettle of fish. Once you've done that and it's copied across, eject the drive from your computer as you would eject any other USB hard drive that you attach to it. Physically disconnect the cable. As soon as you do that, what you should then see is the scatter wheel starting to sort of go round and round and round, and eventually it'll get to the point where it all flashes and you know the update's complete. Okay, it's quite easy to do, but I have to be honest and say they couldn't come up with a more convoluted way of doing it. Alright, hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, drop me a comment back. We probably will have to go into a little bit more detail, but I honestly don't think the problem is the computer end, because Ableton is seeing the item. And the last one for this section from Mr. Darley67. And this was in response to the refurbishment work I did on this thing, funny enough, a couple of years back. And he says, you can easily use these boards with a modern DAW, but you cannot actually control the DAW, e.g. the start-stop, which is true. I mean, there's no functionality on this thing at all for doing that. There's no USB on it here. It's all pure MIDI. For the record, these screens, so this was in response to the specific screen video I do, are the same as many other boards of the time, e.g. some Roland boards and Yamaha SY. And if you want to search for them on the net, the only thing that can vary is the colour. I have to be honest and say, when I replaced this, I went for a white on blue rather than what was there, because what was there was sort of a black on green, and the white on blue is far easier to read. I have to be brutally honest, and I've been slowly changing a lot of the other legacy screens on other keyboards over to this white on blue. Far more easier to read. Well, I think it is anyway. But my T3 is also dimmed so much that I can only read it with the lamp displayed directly on top, which is exactly what I had when I bought this. I'm also looking for a replacement. I just haven't got it done because I'm not really using the T3 anymore. The T series were great keybeds. It's a Yamaha keybed that used in the M1 T3, which is a nice quality keybed with far better touch and aftertouch, noise-free compared with the modern Fartar junk. After 25 years, though, the keybeds might need refurbishment with new rubber contacts or aftertouch strips. Mine has become a bit stiff in the aftertouch compared with what it used to be. I completely agree with that whole sentiment over the keybed. This is an absolutely lovely keybed to play. It's really interesting actually because this is a slightly heavier keybed than this one is, and if I was to this I think is a better keybed on the Oasis, I have to be honest. This is not far behind it, and you think about when these things were made, and it's one of the reasons why I have to be honest and say, after 25 years, I still think this, and I use this, and I use this, and I use my Roland A80 are absolutely solid keyboards to use as a master keyboard in the studio. In fact, the way they implemented MIDI on the T1, I can't say about the T2 and T3 because I've never had a T2 and a T3. I've only ever had a T1. On the back of this thing, you'll actually see there's 2 MIDI outs, so you can actually segmentize straight off the master keyboard. So it was designed to be used as a master keyboard all those years ago. The Roland A80 has 4 separate MIDI banks out. Unfortunately, this is just one. But then theoretically they were going to go with USB on this, and of course they made a right royal hash of that, didn't they? But yeah, I still think this is a super. If you're playing in the studio and you want a synthesizer that has aftertouch and has expression, this, to be honest, outweighs a lot of the modern stuff. Can't say where it's. I mean, it doesn't. I've got a Kronos as well, so I still use that, and I think that's got a lovely keyboard on it. I haven't played the new Phantom to see how that compares with this, that, if that makes any sense. But I tend to use these keybeds far more and MIDI up to the other synthesizers rather than actually play the other synthesizers directly, because I just prefer the keybed on this thing. Hope that is an enlightening set of comments. Until next time, catch you later. Bye bye. Remember, hit that like button if you like what you saw. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified about more rants, more mailbag, more questions and answers, and more videos about this sort of stuff when it's loaded to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.